king has his reign. And then he dies. It's inevitable.
Prometheus has landed.
Do you remember the amazement you felt when you saw Avatar for the first time? Or going back even further, do you recall seeing Stargate on the jumbo screen theater? Special effects like you had never before seen in your life at that point. Now, do you recall the point in each of those movies when you realized that the plot was so ridden with holes that the best thing you could do is just go with it? Hang on and enjoy the ride. Well, if you're gonna watch Ridley Scott's newest alien epic, Prometheus, that's probably the best approach you can take. Okay, admittedly, sci-fi movies with plot holes are about as rare an occurrence as, African-American basketball players in the NBA. Ever since Charlton Heston uttered those immortal words, "Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape," science fiction movies have followed the grand cinematic tradition of making absolutely no sense whatsoever. Still, Prometheus is one where you're going to want to shut off your brain before the opening credits even roll. Go into the kitchen, whip up a batch of nachos, grab something cool and refreshing from the refrigerator, and of the adult variety if you're of age. Trust me on this one. Turn the lights out, lean back, and just enjoy the pretty, pretty light show. Prometheus begins as a scientist couple, Elizabeth Shaw, played by the wonderful Noomi Rapace, and Charlie Holloway, played by the not so wonderful Logan Marshall Green, are leading an expedition on an island off the coast of Scotland. They unearth cave drawings that seem to depict the original inhabitants of the island worshipping larger-than-life sky beings. Now, the sky beings, in turn, are pointing to a constellation of stars. It just so happens that similar discoveries have been made amongst the ruins of ancient civilizations all over the world. The scientists conclude that the sky beings depicted in the drawings are actually responsible for the creation of human life, and they name these sky beings engineers. On this basis, the scientists are able to convince the Weyland Corporation, a multiplanetary conglomerate. That's right, we're on the cusp of the 22nd century here, so no longer do we have multinationals, we have multiplanetaries. But they are able to convince the Weyland Corporation to finance a research expedition aboard the vessel Prometheus. However, soon the scientists' visions of a worshipful reunion with their divine creators are dashed to pieces, because it seems at some point in the past, the engineers reversed course and determined to destroy all life on Earth. Fickle lot, those engineers. Now, a separate alien life form also inhabits this planet, and it seems to have wiped out almost the entire race of engineers, inadvertently thwarting their plans to destroy Earth. So the scientists must now contend with not one, but two hostile alien life forms, as well as a threat that will eventually put the entire planet in peril. Now, this is the point, with apologies to Clint Eastwood and whatever piece of furniture he's holding an imaginary dialogue with at the moment, I would like to tell you about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Prometheus. First, the good. The sound quality is incredible. It's crisp, it's nuanced, it's textured, especially if you're watching in some sort of surround sound stereo system. You'll be looking over your shoulder. Is that an engineer? Is that one of those face huggers that chased Sigourney Weaver around space? Just as rich is the music score. Haunting, ethereal, These are words that I would use to describe it, yet at times appropriately sinister. Just as impressive as the sound quality and the music score is the CGI and special effects. The effects are dazzling in this movie. There's a Rubik's Cube-like holographic projection device. The internal navigation control system of an alien spacecraft that is activated by requisite android David, because let's face it, every good space science fiction movie has to have an android, are absolutely breathtaking. If you were blown away by Avatar, your mouth will be left absolutely agape by Prometheus. The action scenes in Prometheus are both harrowing and intense. At one point, the crew attempts to outrace a silica storm which develops on the surface of the alien planet seemingly out of nowhere. There's also an unbelievable scene where Prometheus rams an alien spacecraft that is heading towards Earth, bent on the planet's destruction. And then both crafts collapse to the planet as the remaining humans on the surface attempt to outrace the plummeting wreckage. There are subterranean scenes that are shot in and out of the first person, where it creates dramatic tension, yet at the same time, viewers may be left with the impression that they're watching Cloverfield in space. The majority of Prometheus cast is outstanding, led by Michael Fassbender in his Oscar-worthy turn as android David. David has mastered almost all of human knowledge, yet he still manages to convey a childlike sense of discovery when he learns something new. Also, like a child, he seeks affirmation whenever he performs a task like translating an alien dialect or negotiating alien technology. Yet at the same time, David has another signature characteristic, this intrusive creepiness, as illustrated by the probing questions he asks Elizabeth about her and Charlie's sex life. The rest of the cast, notwithstanding its thespian chops, is an almost comically international diverse lot. First, there's Janek, the brusque African-American captain of Prometheus. Ravel is his Asian, spiky, not just Asian, spiky-haired Asian, hip Asian co-pilot. Fifield is the British geologist with a red mohawk, and Ford, a Scottish doctor and scientist with the thickest of Highland brogues. Now we come to what's not so good or bad about Prometheus. And here we have to go back to the beginning. There are plot holes in this movie that you could drive a Mack truck through. If you remember, Prometheus began when Shaw and Holloway discovered a series of cave drawings that depicted these so-called engineers that apparently were responsible for the creation of human life. Now, the first thing Shaw and Holloway never account for is the possibility that this could be a hoax. Does anyone remember the famous fossils that were found with dinosaur footprints next to human footprints? Apparently, Adam and Eve were running around the garden with a pet triceratops. Yeah, turned out the whole thing was a fraud. So that's the first thing that Shaw and Holloway never consider. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and let's assume that these drawings are legit. Now, if you are an ancient person who is accustomed to worshiping things like volcanoes, trees, rivers, rocks, little bugs on the ground that you think may be your ancestor, and anything else under the sun or moon, what do you think the chances are that if these beings descend from the sky, that you're going to refuse to worship them unless you're convinced that they're the ones who are responsible for your existence. Zero. Zilch. Preternaturally superstitious people will worship anything. Yet Shaw and Holloway never consider this. Somehow they leap to the conclusion that these engineers created us. Let's take it a step further. Let's assume that they're right. These cave drawings, besides showing people worshiping the sky beings, show the sky beings pointing to a constellation of stars, which, oh yes, Holloway helpfully tells us earlier in the movie is so far away that there's no possible way that these people groups could have known about this constellation. Yes, he actually says that. If that's the case, then how were they able to sketch the star patterns? Did our alien makers scrawl them on the cave walls for them? Did they come to this planet and promptly start passing out pictogram guides to the universe? Moreover, let's assume, let's even give them this point. Let's say that all their assumptions so far have been correct. Still, the fact that the beings point towards a star system, why would Sean Holloway construe that as an invitation? Any more than they would assume that they were just showing us where they lived. Shaw and Holloway continue to display this almost psychic level of prescience at various points throughout the movie, and even after Holloway has, well, happily met his end, Shaw continues her Miss Cleo routine when she is able to somehow figure out the engineer's murderous intentions when she's never even met a living one. Later in the movie, when the last surviving engineer has taken off in his vessel, she is somehow able to conclude that he is heading towards Earth, even though there's no way she could have possibly known this. Also not so good in this movie, unlike the majority of the rest of the cast, is the performance of headliner Charlize Theron. Theron plays her role, Meredith Vickers, evil, aka evil corporate bitch, and let's face it, every movie needs an evil corporate bitch, with a requisite level of frigidity, yet completely without distinction. However, in fairness to Miss Theron, the script does not exactly give her a lot of room to act. And now we come to the ugly. And if you haven't guessed from the earlier portions of this review, the ugly in Prometheus can be summed up by 3 words. Logan Marshall Green. Look, there's a reason why previously the most famous moment in this guy's acting career is when he was shot by Marissa Cooper on The OC. Logan has a kind of swarthy miscreant look, which pretty much typecasts him to play roles of swarthy miscreants. Prometheus seems to get this by giving him plenty of scenes where he plays the reclusive, brooding drunk after one setback or another in the team's mission. Mercifully, Vickers, aka Charlize Theron, charbroils him with a flamethrower about midway through the film's run. The intended audience for Prometheus is obviously first and foremost fans of the Alien series. Ridley Scott insists that Prometheus should not be viewed as a true prequel to the series. Nevertheless, fans of the franchise will recognize many familiar elements. Beyond that, anyone who loves a good horror, science fiction, or action-adventure movie will get a kick out of Prometheus, as long as they suspend their disbelief while watching. So in conclusion, rent the movie, heat up the nachos, get your drinks ready, or if you happen to live in Colorado or Washington where referendums were recently passed this week, perhaps even fire up something that's a little more complimentary to nachos. Lean back and enjoy the show.
Big things have small beginnings.